Well, if someone is watching this has been recorded after the fact. We did it the first time and it did not record. And so we need episode 1 to kind of help somebody if they want to go back and binge their Bibles, then they need to be able to come to this episode. So if you're watching this is not live on a Wednesday night. This is after the fact. And so we're doing it COVID style. I want to remind everyone who is watching this kind of what we're trying to accomplish in every episode. It would help if I turn this remote on. There we go. Every episode we're trying to accomplish 4 things. Introduce a new doctrine, or not episode, but every series of episodes that we're teaching on. We want to introduce a new doctrine. Remember that word doctrine means teaching. 2, ultimately tie that doctrine to Christ. 3, teach new tools for biblical interpretation, which we're going to do in this episode tonight. And 4, make the doctrine applicable to your life. And I will say again as a reminder that anyone watching this, if you haven't kind of followed along over the past 12 seasons of episodes that we have recorded here in Reach You, I want to remind everyone that we use media language when we teach. And the reason why I use media language is because that's similar to how the Bible functions. And I say that because the Bible is 43% narrative, 33% poetry, and the rest is prose discourse, like letters and different things like that. And the Bible is structured as one enormous grand narrative. And the narrative, as you could imagine, always points to a central character. And that central character, his name is Jesus. And that's why we have this right here. Teach the new doctrine or teaching, and then tie that to Christ. So if you hear me say things like episode, Easter eggs, movies, or binge your Bible, it's because that's how the Bible functions. And we've never been more set up to understand our Bibles than we are right now in a media-driven society. So that's why we use that language. So with that being said, let's begin this episode 1. And we're going to kick it off with a scene from the Revelation movie, and that will be the launching pad for this new series of episodes. So we're going to go to Revelation chapter 21, and let's watch this movie. John says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more." If you've watched our Chaos Monsters episode, that's kind of a callback there. Verse 2, "And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death shall be no more, neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain, for the former things have passed away. And I saw no temple in the city, for its temple is the Lord God, the Almighty, and the Lamb. And the city has no need of sun or moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives its light, and its lamp is the Lamb. By its light will the nations walk, and the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it. And its gates will never be shut by day, and there will be no night there." Now, John, as we know, has been raised on what we call the Old Testament. He's gone to synagogue since he was a child, and he has heard the Old Testament, or the Pentateuch, read to him from their rabbi. He's done this every week. This is what they do on Sabbath, where they would go and they would hear the Bible. This was their weekly movie nights. And he's very familiar with a movie. It's the movie that he's going to use and quote from quite often. These biblical authors in the New Testament, they have assumed something of us, and that assumption is that we have watched the Old Testament movie as well. Their speech, when you start to dig into it, is consumed with quotes from the Old Testament, much like being around somebody who watches a lot of movies, and they're constantly quoting the movies from their, or movie lines from their favorite shows and movies, and they do this on a regular basis. Now imagine you're around somebody like that, and you don't know the movie. What they're saying gets lost in translation. And so I want to highlight a word from this movie that John has used 3 times. And he is very familiar with what that word is, and it is the word city. This word is the doctrine that we're going to explore here in Season 12 of Reach You. And we're going to be talking over the next several weeks on this topic, the unexpected city. Now, we may think we know what John is talking about when he uses the term city, because we have those today. And so we can easily, it's a bad habit for us to infer things into an ancient text, but it's very easy to do because the word city still exists in modern America. But as I always say, if we're going to understand what he's saying, then we need to remember that the Bible was not written to us, modern Westerners. It was written for us, but it was written to them. So what does the word city mean to someone being raised here in the first century? What are they thinking of? What is John thinking of as a young boy that's been raised on the Old Testament movie? And we're going to explore that over the next several weeks, and we're going to build the foundation of it in this first lesson. Remember, what we should see here that stands out in Revelation is the fact that the Bible starts with a garden without walls in Genesis. And Revelation is showing us that the end of all things is very similar to the beginning. John references a tree of life, that's in the garden. He references a river flowing through that garden, just like in Genesis. He's referencing lots of things from Genesis, and it's very easy to see that, okay, it began with a garden, and it ends with a garden. And that's not too hard to see, but what we want to kind of pick at tonight is, why is there a city in the garden? Why are there walls in that garden? That's not how it started, so why is it ending with a city? If it started with a garden without walls, why is the Bible ending with a garden surrounded by walls? And we're going to really have to dig this out. It's going to take us some time, but I point this out because it's unexpected. It's a very unexpected thing to see. Thus, the name of this series of topics is the unexpected city. And it's unexpected because, as we will explore throughout this series of episodes, cities are always depicted as bad. And so why is it here in Revelation? Why is it this heavenly place? And that prompts the question, has it undergone some kind of transformation? And I'm just going to tease that out right there, and we're going to kind of pick it apart a little bit more over the next few moments. So now that I've set the tension, let's begin tonight's episode, and we're going to look at the origin of the city. Okay, so let's begin first by kind of fleshing out what a city is to them. Now, remember, what a city is to us is a place with skyscrapers and a large population. Droves of people all packed into one little area, and that is what we would depict as a city. It's in our culture, the larger a place is, it starts to reach the category of a city. It's not a town, it's not a parish, but it's a whole city. We determine a city by its population, but the Bible does not do that. It is determined by whether it's fortified, if it has walls or not. And the word for city in Hebrew is the word ir. It is a very, very important word, and we're going to use that word quite a lot. And I'm going to put this up here because we're going to get to that in a second. This word ir means a walled town, aka a city, and it's important because that word is used over 1,000 times, 1,092 to be exact, in the Bible. So anytime you come across a city in the ancient Near East, it would be fortified, meaning it had those walls around it. In fact, this was one of the defining characteristics of a city in every people group. Assyria, Babylon, all people groups of the ancient Near East would call a city an ir because of its walls. Now, cities would have a temple where the god of whatever people group you're talking about inhabited the city would go to worship. There would also be armies stationed within the walls of the city, and it would also be the hub of all finances. Now, surrounding the Ir, the city, would be little towns. They're city-states, but they would be called towns. And they're little places without walls. They were very vulnerable. They didn't often have armies. These little towns would be the places where the production of goods would take place. that would be sent to the city. And interestingly, these little towns were called banot, which is the word for daughters. So the city would be like the mother, and all the towns that were connected to it would be called banot, or daughters. And we can see that in this slide right here. The city of Tyre is personified and described as a daughter of Sidon. Jeremiah 6:23 refers to the cities surrounding Jerusalem as daughters of Zion. Ezekiel 16:45, the prophet speaks of Jerusalem's daughters. It's interesting, and you're gonna find out why that's interesting as we start to get into this a little bit more. But the Ir was the center of help. It was the place of deliverance. If these little towns, these daughters, came under attack, then they would look towards their mother where the armies were. If they were struggling financially, this is where everything was stored, was in the Ir. And the Ir's job, and the king that presided over it, was to protect its daughters. And this is how it was all across the ancient Near East, not just in Israel, but it was like that in Assyria, it's like that in Egypt. And the difference between a city and a banot, and I can't stress this enough, was the walls. A city had walls, and the banot did not. This is what's on the mind of the ancient authors. It's on the mind of the ancient audience that's reading these documents whenever they would hear the word city. But what is the origin? Where's the first city? We're going to spend the rest of this episode picking that out. So, the first time we see the word city mentioned in the Bible is in Genesis 4. It says, "Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod." That word Nod is wandering. East of Eden, those are important words. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. When he built an Ir, he called the name of that Ir after the name of his son, Enoch. Now, to really understand what's happening here in Genesis 4, I'm going to hit the rewind button, and let's go back a little bit before this happened. All right, we're going to go in reverse, we're going to rewind, and we're going to look at Cain's parents. Now, obviously, we've done this a lot in Reach You. We always start in Genesis, we end in Revelation, because that's how doctrines work. And we're going to look at this because in the beginning, God creates a garden. We've already discussed that. And this is the place where he wants to establish his good creation. And we'll see that there's a river flowing into it, and it watered everything that was outside of that garden, is providing life. And the river splits into four. And this is interesting because the four places where that river goes is the Pishon, the Gihon, the Tigris, and Euphrates. This is really important, and it's a really cool feature because those four places are four cities later in the future. Havilah, Cush, that's towards the area of Egypt, Assyria, and Babylon. And not just any cities, but some pretty notoriously wicked cities. And so we'll do a whole series on the river later, but we want to know, why is God providing life-giving waters to places that will be the enemy to covenantal people later? We'll explore that in a future episode way later. But God allows this stream to cover the Adamah, which is the Hebrew word for ground, and he forms an Adam. And it's a little poem because the word for river or stream is Ad. So Ad over the Adamah, and he forms an Adam. He breathes into that Adam, and it becomes a living creature. Then God says this strange thing to the Adam. He said, "It's not good that the man should be alone." And I want to highlight these words, and it's as strange in Hebrew as it is in English. "I will make him a helper for him." The word "for" is not twice. That's my fault, but it's not in the Bible like that. So why is this not good, though? Why is it not good what God has done? He is calling the task of the Adam, which is the Hebrew word for human. He said, "I want you to be fruitful and multiply." But then he looks at him and he's alone. And how is he going to accomplish the task of being fruitful and multiplying if he's alone? And so now we see here why God is saying that it is not good. How is he to do this task that God has given him without one suitable for him? So God makes an Azer. And I don't love the word helper. It's Not a terrible word, but I wish it was a different word there, because this word for helper is the Hebrew word ezer, which I'll point out right here, and it means deliverer or ally. It's a delivering ally. Uh, it's this word because she's the only one who can help the Adam fulfill the calling of being fruitful and multiply. How is he going to do the thing that God has asked? And so God builds or provides one to help accomplish this. In this case, the fruitful and multiply is an impossibility without a delivering ally. So she's going to come and help them. And I'm showing the Hebrew words because I'm going to teach some new tools here in this lesson. Before we do that, let's look at what happens, okay? So we're going to go to Genesis 2. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and while he slept, he took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. And the rib that the Lord had taken from the man, he made into a woman and brought her to the man. Now, I have a few issues with the word rib as well. This word appears 40 times in the Bible, okay? And it's never used as rib anywhere else but here. That's the reason why I have a problem with this word. It usually means side or beam or even panel. Of all of these 40 times, this is how they're used 39 times out of the 40. Side of the ark, that's a building thing. Side of the tabernacle, another building. The side chambers of the temple. There's a common denominator here. It's always used in the construction of something like a building. It is nowhere in the Bible ever used as a bone word. It's an architectural term everywhere else in the Bible. And scholars are confident that it's an architectural term here in Genesis 2 as well, because the word made is the Hebrew word bana. He's using construction verbs. This is an architectural term as well. He made a woman from the rib. Rib, again, is it's better translated as side or beam. Take, for example, this church building we're in right now. If I walk over here, behind this sheetrock, behind the plaster, the paint, there's 2x4s. And what if I call those 2x4s helpers? Someone listening to me to be like, no, they're essential. This building will not stand without those 2x4s. We would not look at the 2x4s in the construction of this building as helpers. We would look at them as this building cannot fulfill its function of standing without those 2x4s. And that is why I have a problem with the word helper. That is why I have a problem with the word rib, because it's taking away from what's actually happening in here. And we know that there is a not good thing here. The not good is he can't be fruitful. He can't multiply. So I'm going to construct, manufacture, build, make. All these Hebrew verbs are there. I'm going to make a delivering ally for you. Now, it's more accurately said that God took a whole side off of Adam, and he took that side and built woman. Now, think of a double wide trailer where there's two halves. Take one whole half off of it, and what happens when those two halves come back together? It's one. It makes a home. It's a house. But you take one side off of it, it's incomplete. It's exposed. It's vulnerable. Now, I don't want you, the Bible is ancient Hebrew meditation literature. I don't want you to think that God ripped Adam in half and there's one half of him. I want you to think more along the lines of something along these. Think of within Adam was all of the features. He's nurturer and provider. He is very gentle, but he is also very warring. Now imagine God tears off a piece of him, and in Adam stays all of the warring provider sides. But in the woman, the Ezer, goes all of the gentle, the nurturing side. Think of it along those terms. God is building another side for him. And no wonder it says when these two come together, they become one flesh. Now, build is a strange word. Bana is only ever used in the Bible for the construction of altars and cities, ironically. Now, this should cause us to look and say, well, this is weird. And if it's really weird, I had a professor tell me one time, if it's weird, then it's important. Now, this is a tool that biblical authors use a lot in the Bible when they want to draw your attention to something. Since they don't have exclamation points, they don't have any punctuation in the Bible, they're going to throw something at you weird to draw your attention to it. Okay, now that we've learned a few new Hebrew words, I want to learn a new tool, okay? In every new series, I'm trying to teach one new tool. And this one, it's going to be a doozy. So you ready for it? Paranomasia. That's the technical term, but for us common folk, it's the word for word plays. And the Bible will use word plays a ton from beginning to end. And these word plays are used to connect ideas together. There's a great book, if you want to pause this episode right now and go on Amazon. It's called Wordplay in the Ancient Near Eastern Texts. This is a great resource if you want to see how the Bible makes use of these. But the author, I'm going to give you the 30,000-foot view of how paranomasia works in the Bible. The author of this book that I just mentioned, he points out that the ancient biblical authors use puns, word plays, all of those things to connect ideas together. He says when you see a high density of similar Hebrew letters that keep popping up within a connected literary unit, aka a story, and you see interconnected plays of meaning, then you have paranomasia happening. They can also use words that look alike to tie together two ideas that you would likely never tie together. I'll give you an English example of this. You can tune a guitar, but you can't tune a fish. This is a form of paranomasia where tune, space, a guitar, and tuna fish. Now, in any other English sentence, you would never put a guitar and tuna, the fish, into the same sentence. Those two are unrelated, but by using the words that sound alike and even look alike, tune, space, a guitar, and tuna fish, you're now connecting two ideas that would have never come together. Here's another one. Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana. Again, it's the same words, but connecting two different ideas. Time can fly as fast as an arrow, but fruit flies like a banana. The actual creature, the fruit fly, likes to eat bananas. These ideas would never harmonize except if you put paranomasia to connect them. And the Bible does this a lot. The Hebrew authors use this tool. And I hate to break it to anyone, but this really only works when you're reading it in Hebrew. And so you'll have to learn Hebrew to really see the word plays, but I'm going to help carry us along in that. So let's start. Let's look at paranomasia in the Bible and see why I'm even given all this, and what does this have to do with cities? What does this have to do with everything you just read about Adam and Eve? Well, let's look at it. In Genesis, the word Ezer has consonants. That's the word for helper. Ezer has consonants that keep appearing all throughout the story, all the way to Cain, the one who built a city. God sees that man cannot multiply, so God builds him an Ezer, and they are both naked. That's the word arum. This is all important. Let's just collect all these words, and if you want to write it down, you can. But in the following story, you get the one who was built, that's Eve. She was built to bring a good thing to the not good situation. Adam can't be fruitful and multiply. He's alone. So she is the good creature made to help a not good situation. But what's frustrating is the good creation, Eve in this situation, brings about a not good, which is nakedness. She was the one who ate the fruit. And they hide from God, and God asks, "Where are you?" And when they come out, they found out they made mistakes, and God provides them skins. That's the Hebrew word, or. It's interesting, and we're going to find out why all this is interesting in a minute. So just keep collecting all the Hebrew words. So essentially, God provides and builds an Ezer to deliver the lonely human. But the Ezer tragically becomes the one who is targeted by the serpent, and the result is they realize they are naked, or arum. God provides, though, for their nakedness with or skins. And as we know, they are exiled, and the Bible said they were sent towards the east. So I'm going to put the slide up to show it all. So Bana is build. Azer is the helper. They are naked, or arum, and God provides or, skins. So let's keep all that in mind because we're about to see paranomasia happen. Genesis 4 shows us Cain has an opportunity to do good or not do good. And there's an animal that he's been called to rule over, which is sin crouching at the door, the Bible says. He chooses to do not good by killing his brother. God shows up and he asks the same question that he asked Cain's parents. Where is your brother? It's that where question that God is kind of picking out. And this is what it says. It says, the voice of the blood calls to me from the ground. That word blood is the Hebrew word dam. It's the same root word for Adam and Adumah. The dam calls to me from the Adumah. This is so powerful because I called Adam from the Adumah and I gave him life and he became a living soul. You have reversed that order and now you have taken an Adam, your brother, you have spilled his dam onto the Adumah. You have reversed my good creation. You have taken the thing that is his life and spilled it on the ground. I, the Creator, called life from the ground. You are an anti-version of me. And what the Bible is showing us here is that Cain is an anti-God. God graciously doesn't kill him, but exiles him east. And we should be thinking of Adam and Eve, who was exiled toward the east. And this is what God does. For the not good, God provides something good. Cain gets terrified and he says, somebody's going to kill me when they find out about this. And God's like, oh, not so. I will mark you. And he provides a good thing for a not good thing. Here's another human in desperate need because of a not good decision, and God provides for him a good thing. The good thing he provides is the sign, which, if you're following along, you guessed it, the word for sign or mark, it looks identical to the word for skins. He provides him an ot for Cain, and he provided an or for Adam and Eve. And the first thing that Cain does is he finds a wife, he has a son. And then the second thing that Cain does, he builds an ir. He builds a city. And this is really, really cool stuff because what we're going to see is that word that we've been looking for. He builds for himself a city. Now, here's what is so just why I'm doing all of this. I know it's a lot, but this is the story for the first man. He banas an azer, and the azer brings about a not good, and God provides a good thing with or. And Cain banas an ir, and this is a not good thing, and God provides an ot. Now what's interesting is all of these words, these are the same word. Ir looks identical to the word azer. Ot looks identical to the word for or. And or for skin sounds exactly like another word. It's spelled different, but it sounds like the word for light. And so if you're hearing the scriptures being read, it sounds like he was clothed with light. If you're reading it, he's clothed with or. And this is all really, really compelling because what Cain should have done is he should have put all of his faith in this, in the ot. God has provided for me something that is going to protect me. And the reason why we know this idea is because when you go into Joshua, there are cities of refuge. And those cities of refuge are for people who have accidentally murdered somebody just like Cain. And they run to a city that provides refuge for them. And here Cain doesn't allow God to protect him. He provides his own city. He builds his own city. He provides his own salvation. This is the fallibility of humanity. He builds a city to help himself. In this situation, Adam goes to sleep and God builds him an azer. In this situation, Cain does not let God do anything for him. He builds himself his own delivering ally. And this is paranomasia. And the reason why we're saying that is because city looks exactly like Azer in spelling. He's building his own delivering ally. He's building his own salvation. He's establishing a life that doesn't need God. I can do this on my own. Also of interesting note is the fact that cities will now crop up in the Bible and be described as women all throughout the Bible, thus connecting this to something female. That's paranomasia. This will now be the idea behind the word city to the original audience that's been raised on Torah. And so we end where we began. Why did the Bible begin with a garden that had no walls? Why did it end with that? If this is all depicted as bad, if Cain builds his own delivering ally as a man who is saying, God, I don't need you, I'm not going to put my faith in this mark you've given me, why is it ending with a city if it's depicted as bad? If it began with a garden and it ends with a city, why did God allow this? What an unexpected turn of events. This is the unexpected city. Walled cities originated with man's pride to provide deliverance for himself. So why is it there? Now here's another tool I want to leave us with in this episode. The Bible is, I mentioned it a little earlier, meditation literature, meaning it begs us to sit and think. And we're losing the art of pondering in this new era of time with Google and AI. We don't sit and think anymore. We can just grab something and find an answer. But the Bible really wants us to just sit and think about it. So what I want you to be thinking about between this episode, episode 1, and the next episode is, are the walls like the scars in Jesus' hands? Why does the resurrected Savior still have scars in his hands? Why is there a city in Revelation? Could it be that the walls in Revelation of this new city, this thing that's been depicted as bad all throughout the Bible, is it actually a sign that God redeemed what man built as his own salvation? And rather than God wipe it out, God glorifies it. It's now walls of jasper. But I bring you back to the movie we opened up with tonight in Revelation 21. It says the gates were open. It was not closed. It's not a people group trying to provide for themselves their own safety. God delivered what man built as his own delivering ally. God elevated it. God glorified it. And so I want you to sit and think about that a little bit more. Is this God's power of glorifying what man corrupted? So tune into the next episode, episode 2, and we'll flesh this out even more. I'll see you in the next Reach You. Until then, let's go binge our Bibles.